Hey, I just want to make a pushback on Wikipedia because, of course, as we know, Wikipedia it's not really open to the world. Nobody's really allowed to edit Wikipedia except for special people who are chosen. It is a socialist, left-wing, anti-God, ultra-atheist, leftist website. Basically, it has a slant, it has an opinion, and it really gives out more deliberate ideological misinformation than perhaps any website in the world. Based on their ideology, they give out more misinformation than really anyone. And really, much of their website nowadays is devoted to just pushing like almost a rhetoric or a doctrine or a dogma that's really not valid, to be honest. Anyways, I want to just look at ley lines, which is the concept that there is. I'm just going to go back here. And look, we're going to get it right immediately. So immediately we get this, and instantaneously, here they go. They have to tell you what to think. They don't just tell you something that exists. They don't just tell you facts. They tell you their opinion. They have to give you their opinion and state their opinion as if it was a fact. They're supposed to be an encyclopedia, but they're giving you the interpretation. They're giving you their opinion. They're giving you their ideology. Anyways, I just thought this was fascinating. It goes from Mount Carmel all the way out to, where was it? Skelling Michael. And it has all these different stops along the way. That's really neat. And I think that there is definitely something going on there. If you're not a complete, rabid, God-hating atheist who's completely convinced, you're not convinced, you're deliberately pushing God out of your mind on purpose because you're afraid of God and you don't like him, so you try to push him out of your mind because you don't want to be grateful to him or obey his morals. Well, if you actually are an agnostic who's willing to learn, or you are a believer in something, or you're a theist, or you're a Christian, whatever it is that you are, I think that you have a more open mind if you're a religious person, and that's a good thing. If you close your mind so that truth can't get in, then you're not really gaining smartness. You're becoming less smart because you're not willing to learn new and good facts about truth and reality. Anyways, I think that just based on personal experience, I know that in my life I see that spiritual warfare goes on, and that spiritual principalities and dominions and evil forces, they do make use of ley lines, and they do base their spiritual religious practices and major locations where they center their principalities on these areas that do go along these vectors. I don't know why they do that, but they do, and I've observed it. And I've seen the lines in the sky that they make when they are having spiritual warfare. That's very active at any particular time. So, and I've seen it go along these lines also. So, just from my own personal experience of observing spiritual warfare going on, let alone the extreme. This is very improbable to be accidental. And it's definitely not done on purpose by whoever built these monasteries. And it goes straight to Mount Carmel in Israel. So, that's kind of cool. I think you'd kind of have to be a dumb person to not think that there's something to this. You'd actually have to be genuinely trying to not pay attention to evidence. You're so committed to your religious belief that there is no spirituality. And by the way, that is called metaphysical naturalism. It's a metaphysical belief. It has nothing to do with what's physical. It's a metaphysical belief. It's a philosophy that's actually a religion. It's a religious, spiritual belief. It's a metaphysical belief that there is nothing spiritual that exists, and that's just rubbish. It's rubbish. And at this point, you really have to be deliberately pushing evidence away and closing your eyes on purpose to not see things, to not want to see them. Is it possible that these are accidental? Well, maybe. But that's a far cry. That's, once you start getting this much coincidence, that you have to start saying, you have to start crying foul and saying, hey, we need to cry foul. There's something going on here. Anyways, they don't allow you to just know information and facts. They don't just give you details without interpretation like an encyclopedia should. They're not an encyclopedia. They are a slanted, biased opinion website. They pretend to be an encyclopedia, but they always give you their interpretation. This is what you're supposed to think. They tell you what you're supposed to believe about this. The expected, correct socialist opinion, the good communist opinion. This is what we want you to believe. This is what we want you to think. This is what you're supposed to think. You're not supposed to think anything different than this. They give you their opinion. Now, what do you mean no scientific evidence? How do you get scientific evidence that the alignment was planned? So you're looking at this, all these different sites here. You're looking at all these different sites. How would you get scientific evidence that the alignment... Wait, I got lost here. How would you get scientific evidence that the alignment was planned? That would be a historical thing. If you were going to find evidence that the people who built these monasteries planned it on purpose, that would have to be a historical thing, not a scientific thing. First of all, that would be forensic, not empirical. That's a forensic science, not empirical science. And it would be historical, not laboratory. So I don't know what you possibly could mean by that. This is not an intelligent statement right here. This is not intelligent. This is specious. It's specious. S-P-E-C-I-O-U-S, specious. It gives the ring of it sounding intelligent, but it's really not. It's really, really empty. They just want to, it doesn't matter. This could be anything. Whoever wrote this, it has nothing to do with the facts or the evidence. They just hate the idea that there's anything supernatural or spiritual, and it's just bashing. They're just bashing on it. They're just, trying to trash it, trash talk it, bash it, hoping that people who don't think twice will just read it and believe it because that's what's on the page. It's written down, so it must be true. And I'm encouraging you, think for yourself. I think we should just look at this and say, hey, there's something to it. And you know what? I will tell you this. God is the king of the universe. He's the king of heaven. He's the king of earth. He's God. He's God of everything. But God has allowed Satan to have a kingdom in the meantime. God has said so in his word. He has revealed it by his Holy Spirit that this is the case. And all the different angels that rebelled against God, they all have different skills, different abilities. And they really do gain or lose power based on where they are. Since they're fallen, they have been cast down to the earth, like Satan. There are demons that are more powerful in regions that are mountains. There are demons that are more powerful in regions that are valleys or hills. And there are demons that are more powerful, in regions that are on or near the water. They do have whatever trait or characteristic it is. They do gain or lose power based on where they are and what the terrain is. And if you look at archaeology, people continue to reuse so-called spiritual sites because they are spiritual sites. They continue, multiple people over thousands of years continue to use the same shrine in the same city. So, for example, in Tel Dan, there was a spiritual area where they would have various, pagan worship going on. They would keep using the same, spot. So they wouldn't have a shrine over here and a shrine over there and keep moving it around the city. It would always be in the same spot. And people keep building cities in the same spots too. And people keep building temples in the same spots. And they do have alignments to other geography, such as mountains. And it is quite intriguing, and there is something to it. And I think we are remiss. No, we are deliberately ignorant if we choose not to pay some attention to it. There are sites that are holy to God, such as the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, and there are sites that Satan uses for his own unrighteous spiritual activity, and that's just a fact of life. It's not something we need to